So this was kind of a surprise to me that I was going to talk about dragon archetypes, because I had never really thought about dragons and archetypes together. So I know the human archetypes. I have a background in working with the 4 channels of human archetypes, and I knew that the way of the dragon, where I talk about shape-shifting into dragons, is something that goes beyond what goes beyond the human archetypes, right? Because the whole idea of becoming a dragon is to free yourself from the human condition, from the human illusion, from the human trance, from the human condition, and realizing that the whole human drama, for lack of better words, it's an illusion. It's absolutely an illusion. It is not true. It's not real. It's just, I had this strange, it's just like this strange experience, because I've been really working on stepping out of the human and really start living as a dragon, with my genius magic. And um, it's like at one point, like I had like a very dramatic money block revealed, which kind of like propelled me right into this very strange experience where I could actually see the human experience for what it is, and how surreal it was and how absurd. And it was just like kind of like ants running out, like living this pretend life, having no idea what they're doing, and it has like this nightmarish quality of like just being in a loop all the time. So not to scare you, we're still here as human beings. You're not actually going to become a dragon, but there is life beyond the human experience where you're actually just living with life, living in divine truth, which is what your genius magic is. And yeah, it is just like a way of living where life is working for you, where everything is, served to you on a silver platter. So all this hard life and everything, it's not going to be. So let's get into it. I'm not sure I explained it well enough, but you will get it at the end of this. Okay, so what we are talking about here is the human ego versus the divine dragons. So right here, right, it encapsulates it. It's like the human ego versus divine dragon. So I was thinking, what really is a dragon? Dragon is divine truth made manifest. It's manifestation of divine truth, or magic, because divine truth is magic. So it is separate from the human ego, right? But the whole point is like the separation itself is an illusion. So you have always been a dragon, and you have always lived as a dragon, right? You just sometimes forget. So I'm at the end of this presentation, I'm going to share a few case studies, so you can get a sense of how it works in real life. Okay. So this is the transition we want to go from, where life as an enemy, right? It's like, I don't know if you ever had this experience, like in this, throughout the life, it's like you always felt that you're working so hard to make life what you want it to be rather than what it is. And it's and life is, and it's like, that's part of a human condition, right? It's like you're almost fighting with life, like seeing life as an enemy, with all your problems and struggles and this and that and people and this and that, versus when you're living the way of a dragon, right? Life is just effortless. you don't have problems. You don't have human problems, right? Everything that happens is a gift to help you live your genius magic more. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be easy. I mean, this is, I'm going to share a story about how much this membership here has actually challenged me. I had so much ego content on it, but there's also this effortlessness to it, right? Where everything is given to you. So this is what we want. So it's a difference between what we have been programmed to believe is to make things happen. We have to make things happen. Otherwise, they're not going to happen, right? We got to take responsibility for making things happen. Otherwise, they're not going to happen, right? Versus just letting life, bring experiences to us. And every single experience is a portal into a unimaginable life. There's nothing to fight. There's nothing to make happen. And if we can make that shift, the more we can just live in a state of allow, and then say, yeah, this is what's happening now. Let's go for it, right? This is when life becomes so magical, because then you are wide open to this incoming stream of goodness in life that you are part of all the time, and what your body is just a conduit for. Your human self should just be a conduit for. So what you often hear in the coaching world and the whole mindset world is, you got to believe, you got to work on yourself, you got to do business strategies, you got to do this, you got to do a dating profile. If you're looking for a partner, right? It's about dominating life into becoming what you want it to be, according to your human desires, very often, right? Versus submitting to life and letting life bring it to you, because life is not your enemy. Life doesn't want you to suffer. It's just the illusion of your human condition, of your ego, that believes that if you don't make things happen, you're going to end up suffering, right? So there's this, like, almost everything you hear in the world of personal transformation, personal growth, and business coaching, etc. It's about dominating life versus just submitting to it. I will bring you everything wonderful if you just stop fighting, if you try, being it into submission. So it's also another way of looking at it is fear versus faith, right? It's just what I said, right? It's like you're trying to make things happen. You're trying to dominate life, because if you don't, you're afraid that you're not going to get what you really want, and then you're going to be miserable, right? But living with life as an enemy, that's misery in and of itself, right? Versus just having faith, like life really is on your side, and everything that's coming to you is part of the unfolding, or is a portal to more unfolding, right? There are no problems in life. There's just things that comes to you that you say yes to, and then they become more and more and more. So it's the difference between living saying no to life versus saying yes to life, right? And everything we are, taught, so much of promotion is about, like, what you're living now is not good enough, right? So right there and then it becomes your enemy. And it has to be fixed because it's not good enough. And if it's not good enough, then you can't feel good about yourself. So feelings matter versus feelings perpetuate the illusion, right? So this is what's actually going to go in depth with next month here in the membership, how to turn your feelings into portals. Which is probably going to be, at this point, I'm thinking like a 3-part series. But as a human ego, right, feelings becomes what runs your life. And, versus as a dragon, yeah, your human has feelings, but really the feelings, they just perpetuate the illusion that you're separate, because you're not separate. So the human ego is all about separation from divine consciousness. That you're separate, like the drop in the ocean that doesn't recognize it's part of the ocean, right? The ocean of divine love, divine consciousness, divine truth is all the same. So there's a lack, it's the separation brings it with the lack. And because it is founded in lack, like the most important thing is then, to overcome the problem of lack, right? And not realizing that this is an illusion. There is no separation, there's no lack. So the way of the dragon is the divine consciousness, divine truth, abundance, and it's a real reality. It's a real reality. And, it's recognizing, like really not just having as a concept that you're a spiritual being on a human journey, but actually living it, being it, embodying it, that you are actually not human. You just have a human experience, but truly you are a spiritual being, which means you are a God creator. You're part of divine consciousness. And abundance of God is just yours, right? It's like a God creates, it's just a thought, and then it comes to you. You don't have to make things happen. Because of the God creator, it'll happen just because. There's nothing to do. There's only being as the true spiritual, spirit, divine God creator. And, it has my genius magic to weave it into, dragon codes, at least at this point. And I was thinking, like, why dragons, right? Because it's really making crystal clear that it's not human. It's such a different state of being. It's such a different way of interacting with life as a dragon. It's alien, right? And once you get to experience yourself as a dragon, you will realize you have immense power and you're vaster. You're vaster than 1,000 stars, right? There's like this vastness. And where you can just, from this vast presence, this powerful presence as a dragon, you can kind of look down onto the human experience and just see how ridiculous it is to believe in it, right? Now I'm saying this, right, like you have to experience it for yourself, which is what the shapeshifter journey is all about, to get to this point. Okay, so I want to base this in the human archetypes, and these are the I used to work a lot with shadow alchemy before, but I didn't do it. But one of the things, because there's a better experience, there's a better way, but the archetypes are true, right? So if you think about like the archetypes, the human archetypes, and I will also use these 4 channels for the dragon archetypes, is an instigation channel where everything starts. There's the individuation channel, which is who you are. There's the foundation, which is like physical reality, and there's the creation, right, where it's like, what is it that you're creation. So the shadow codes, those are the ones that are focused on survival. It's like the survival, it's the prostitute who will sell her soul for safety. It's a child who doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't know who she is. It's a victim, oh, I'm powerless, I'm helpless, and the saboteur, who is all caught up in logic and reason. And then you have the power codes, right? That's sort of the ultimate of the human expression, where you are the instigation, right? It's like it's the instigation channel right here, which is where everything starts, right? And it always starts with, what is it that you want to manifest? What is it that you create? Because ultimately we are creators. Joy is found in creations. And if we don't create, life gets very dull. So there's different ways of creating, right? People have all kind of different genius magic and different taste and everything. Anyway, so the desire here, right, where the and you desire what you value, right? So the prostitute, the shadow archetypes, they value survival. over anything else. And the power archetypes here, the lover, the sovereign, the warrior, the magician, they value, I always want to say, like, be the masters of the universe, right? It's like they value um, knowing that they can manifest on demand, that they can create on demand. So it's kind of like the ultimate expression of the human condition of the ego. Is like, this is what I want, I'm going to take responsibility for making it happen, I'll do whatever it takes, I'll take all the actions, and I'll trust that my intuition will give me, information on what the next steps are, right? It's a very powerful, calm, confident state of being. Whereas this one with the shadow codes, it is all about, okay, I need people to like me. If I stand out and be too different, then it's like, if I own my power, then people are gonna be angry at me. So I'm gonna be powerless and helpless, and then maybe somebody's gonna feel sorry for me and make it happen for me. And I'm really just gonna try to figure it all out so I can do it perfectly, so that I can have the life I want. Right. So it's very, trying to figure it out is a saboteur. So I'm not going to go too, yeah, let's just continue here. So the creation process is just, you have the instigation, you take responsibility, and then should really be the magician, which is like, this is the actions you take, and the warrior takes the actions, and then you have the creation. So each channel serves a purpose in the creation process, because this is about creating the unimaginable, magical life without you having to make it happen, but to let it come to you. Unimaginable life that is coming to you without you having to make it happen. Now, you still have to take actions, right? Because we are creators, but you don't have to make it happen. And that's the difference, right? So the instigational channel is your desire. The spirit channel, just ignore the soul channel, spirit channel, body channel, mind channel. I was going to edit that out, but forget. So the instigational channel is the prostitute lover, is about what you value, your desire. And all creation starts from having a desire for something different than what you have. So the individuation channel is the child sovereign. It's who you are, it's owning your power, it's taking responsibility, being in your authority, and owning that your life and your journey is different from everybody else's. So the body channel, the foundational channel, it is really about your resources, your strength, your will to take action, your willingness to take actions too, right? It's moving things in three-dimensional space. And then the last one is the transformational channel. It's like your magic, right? It's your intuition that will pull steps. It's kind of like your higher self, if you want to think of it that way. So these four shadow archetypes are always at play when something in your life is not the way you truly want it to. And they are the reason you play small, stay in your comfort zone, and struggle to make money, and or build wealth, or be in a relationship, or have your health back, have better health, or whatever it is, right? It's like, in divine consciousness, you already have everything, because everything is divine consciousness. As a dragon, you already have everything, but it needs to, your human self is the conduit for bringing it into 3D life. And when it's not already here, it's because there's ego content in the way. And that's the shapeshifter portal, or that's the shapeshifter's journey, right? It's like, from human to dragon is a lot about clearing the channel. So I often liken it to, I'm not going to go into there. So the prostitute is concerned with survival, as I mentioned before. And to survive, she needs the approval of the tribe, because without the tribe, being rejected by the tribe, she will die. And here's the key, right? She will sacrifice everything, including her true self expression. Everything, including wealth, including health, including marriage, whatever, in order to get the tribe's approval. She will really sacrifice everything to make sure that the tribe approves of her so that she will survive. And if you can hear it in the words, right, this is like very, very, very basic early evolution survival mechanism. And she assigns value according to how well it can ensure her survival. The child, oops, something missing here, the background here. Hold on, let me just grab one here. Okay, so the child is a shadow archetype of your spirit, right? And if you think of a child, right, a child has an unformed identity, has no power, no authority. She lives in a world of dreams and fantasy and wishful thinking, doesn't recognize truth, right? It's like a child lives in stories. And this is part of why we are, end up with trauma, because we don't see the truth of what's happening. And she takes no responsibility because that's what parents are for. And the victim is a shadow archetype of your body, has no has no strength, is weak, has no strength, no will, catastrophizes, right? It's like, what if? And, she has no ability to change things. She has no power to create a different life for herself. And here's one story that just popped into mind that was a long time ago. One of my clients, she called me all in tears. She was sobbing on the phone about how she was going to, about losing her home and having to live on the street and not knowing where to live and losing her business. And I was very confused. I just listened to her sobbing about it. And I asked her, I'm really confused. Has it actually happened or has it not happened yet? And just me asking this question, she just stopped. It hasn't happened. Why am I having all these feelings around it, right? That's a catastrophizing. It's like the emotional drama of catastrophizing and worst case scenarios. So the victim feels self-pity for a burden in life and focuses on other people's problems to avoid feeling the weight of her own cowardice and lack of will. We call that codependence. And she believes when it comes to business, she doesn't have the ability to create cash and clients at will. And this is where, people just churn and loop around in this one, right, along with the other shadow archetypes. Okay, so the saboteur is the shadow archetype of the mind. All about logic, reasonable, and what's realistic, concerns with what makes sense, there's proof for credibility. I mean, it's like, oh, but I have proof because this happened in the past, right? Or I'm here talking about dragon archetypes. Nobody has done that before that I'm aware of. And, my saboteur could say that, oh, but nobody's going to pay attention to you because, you're just some weirdo that is talking about dragons and dragon archetypes, right? This is like, I have no credibility anywhere. This is the first time this is presented in the world. And she can only see the 3D world and believes in nothing beyond that, right? There's only what you can touch, see, and feel, or experience, right? Taste. It does not believe in magic and therefore has a magic-less life. And I wanted to go back and do this one, the child. Now, the child believes she has to be special in order to get what she wants. And this is one that's going to come back, when I talk about one of my case studies, like the child needs to believe she's special. And even, it could be the prostitute, right? The value is in being special. Since a prostitute is about value, right? It's about your value. So, I talked about survival, but it also has to do with, value just in general, your own value, your value as yourself. Okay, so let's see. So the 4 power archetypes turn your desire into creation. It is a creation process where the lover instigates by committing to a desire. The sovereign takes responsibility for making the desire come true. The warrior moves the pieces in the 3D world, and the magician provides the shortest path to the manifestation by seeing behind the veil and creating magic. Right? This is the ultimate expression of your human self. Nothing wrong with that. And this is how, as when you activate the dragon archetypes, this is how you are the conduit from channeling, for bringing the divine truth of your genius magic into the human experience and turning it into like magical art, potent art, right? It is this way. So the lover values dreams above anything else, right? Your dreams matter more than survival. That's a big shift here, right? You're willing to risk not surviving in order to make your dreams come true. So you will sacrifice everything in order to ensure your dream and desire will come true, and you will not settle for anything less, right? You will always choose for your own approval. The tribe doesn't matter anymore. You don't value the tribe's approval anymore. You value your own approval, and is willing, to just be the only one in the world to approve of yourself. And you have extremely high standards for yourself, your life, your business, and your clients, when it comes to that. So the sovereign, very clear on who you are. You have a very strong sense of self compared to the child who doesn't have an identity, right? You as a sovereign, you're in your power and you're in your authority because you rule your life. That's what the sovereign is, right? The ruler. So you're a truth teller. You speak your truth, unapologetic, uncompromising truth, which is what you see me do with this dragon archetype here, right? I'm a truth teller. I speak my unapologetic, uncompromising truth. I'm in full command of my life and take full responsibility for making your dreams come true, right? You are the commander of your life and you take full responsibility for it, for whatever happens. And if you don't like it, you change it, right? And then the warrior, right? You are strong, you have a lot of strength, resilience, and you're strong of will, and you are resourceful. You know exactly how to make things happen and will do whatever it takes to reach your goal. And that is still part of being as a dragon, right? But it gets a tweak. You still need the warrior archetype. So you always have the strength to handle everything that comes your way. And you're fiercely devoted to protecting your best interest at all cost, right? Think about that. A warrior is also a protector, right? And what you protect as a warrior is yourself and your dreams coming true. So your loyalty is to your dream and to your pure self-expression to that dream. And then the magician is the power archetype, which is the intuition, right? It's the wild card that operates outside time and three-dimensional reality to pull seemingly magical acts of manifestation truths. You take insane leaps of faith because you know that you can see it's not the whole picture, and what you can see is far more magical than what you can't see. So we are going beyond the 3D world already, and you can all see this is where we're beginning to slide into dragonhood. And I even wonder if there's a magician that is kind of like, because it exists outside the human experience, and like your higher self, right? It's like gets that there's something more than what's going on. It's not just what meets the eye. There's a whole lot more to life. It's like maybe that's like nudging you to, look into becoming a dragon and genius magic. So the magician already doesn't care for what's realistic in any way, shape, or form. He just cares about magic. Right? That's why it's magician, creates magic. So shadow code, and this is the one thing I really want you to pay attention to. Shadow code animation is always ego animation. So human, pure human. Power code animation may or may not be ego. And I've experienced both. I've really truly experienced both. That it can either be my genius magic or it can be an ego desire. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later, very soon probably. Okay. So let's look at the dragon archetypes. I put them up here. So the prostitute lover, which is about value, what do you value most, becomes the purifier. The child, the sovereign, which is about power and responsibility and identity, becomes the steward. The victim, the warrior, which is about making things happen, taking actions in space, the guardian. And the saboteur magician becomes the oracle, which is about what do you do. The victim, the warrior, the guardian is really about what, the actions themselves. The saboteur magician is like, what actions are you taking? The oracle too. Okay. So the purifier has to do with value, desire. The steward has to do with power, responsibility. I want to put identity here because that's very important too. The guardian is like, the loyalty, which is part of the warrior, is like, and the actions you're taking. And the oracle is just pure knowing. Yeah. Okay, so the purifier, this is the one I'm going to talk most about. So the purifier, what you value more than anything else is your genius magic. And it's coming out of love for God. It's the love for the divine that underlies your devotion to your genius magic. And I mentioned that the lover is like the prostitute and the lover, the human archetypes. They're all about sacrificing, making sacrifices for what you value more, right? And with valuing your genius magic, divine truth of your genius magic, and living in divine truth above your human concerns, you become willing to sacrifice everything that makes you human, right? And that includes all your human problems. So I had this like very I'm probably going to put it up as a post, right? It's like how to become a problem is to sacrifice. How to become a dragon is you do that by sacrificing your human problems. So human ego sees everything as a problem. It's a problem solver. It wants to change everything. It wants to fix everything, according to some random taught concept of what's good enough, right? So you have to sacrifice all those. So this true standard of a dragon is like only genius magic, only divine truth. And you shift your whole life up to, I love the divine truth of my genius magic so much that I'm willing to sacrifice everything else for it. Right? And your genius magic is your little area of godhood. And your genius magic is always going to be your truest self-expression. It is you in the purest form when you strip all your human concerns and the human programming away and just leave you to it's like if you were completely free to express and create, you will end up with your genius magic. This is what matters. This is what matters, right? But not in an attached way, not in a life or death way as it does for the ego, but it's the most beautiful way that you can conceive of existing. It's the most greatest story that you can love, imagine living. It's your greatest creation. I'm going to say right here, I'm going to step a little bit out of the teaching and share a little bit, because this membership has been like incredibly challenging for me to put through. And even just like coming up to actually doing this live stream here is like there's so much ego content coming up. And as I can see now here doing it, it's like, I love this. This, it just rings through my whole being that this is my greatest life. This is greatest beauty I could experience. And I have so much love for this, right? It's like to take people out of their human lives and into life as a dragon. Okay, so devotion is love, right? And it's interesting because when we talk about the prostitute and the lover, you will think it has to do with relationship, but the word lover, right? It doesn't even talk about the love. It's just like what you value most. It's not about what you love the most, it's what you value most, right? But here the love come in, because the reason why you value your genius magic is because of the love. How deep is your love for your genius magic? And it's the same as the love for God, it's the same as the love for the divine, you know. And it's a beautiful, impersonal, unconditional love, because it is divine love. So the divine mandate, because now with the dragon archetypes, we are moving beyond the human and into the divine. It's like to sacrifice anything that's not divine truth. So the purifier is really about sacrifice. And what you sacrifice is the human concerns. And it's hard. It's hard, you know, because you have a long history of caving to ego, which is, oh, here's another human concern, you know. Aren't you going to be concerned about these things? Or it's like, oh my God, the ego says, it's like, oh, she's slipping out of my control, you know, let me just present. Here's another human concern. Shouldn't you be concerned about this? So it's like constantly being willing to sacrifice those. So, okay, so I'm going to talk a lot about this because, you know, the prostitute lover, the purifier, it is where everything starts, right? It's the desire. It is where you're coming from. This is where your creation starts. So it's really important. So I'm going to talk more about this because this is a trap, right? Why do you desire what you desire? And so, oops, number one. So the origins of ego desire, and I have 5 of them, right? And, you know, I already knew that shadow desire, you know, like just don't do anything about your shadow desire. And this one is the number one here, is a shadow desire. But I hadn't even realized that some forms of ego desire was actually not based in shadow, which is very, very interesting. And that kind of like really rocked my world and made me see that I might not be acting on shadow desire, but I was definitely acting on ego desire still. So fear of experiencing the opposite, right? What can it look like? It can look like having a desire to make money because you're afraid of not having. I'm going to put my hand up here because this has been driving me forever and ever and ever. It looks like wanting to be in a relationship because you're afraid of being alone, abandoned, rejected, feeling abandoned, feeling rejected, feeling lonely, right? This is a fear feeling this that makes you want to be in a relationship. It's a shadow desire. It looks like wanting to create a successful business because you're afraid of being seen as a failure. And these are shadow desires. They're very obvious shadow desires, right? And for me, you know, I have a deep, deep fear of not making money, which has nothing to do with, you know, how much money I'm actually not making. So I have obsessively wanted to make it. And there's going to be some very interesting stories about this as we go on. So origin of ego desire, number 2, wanting to recreate an experience from the past. And that one's like, darn, this is ego too. Because I was all about, oh, I made this much money in the past. I want to make this much money again. Or I took people to this great power place experience in Iceland. I want to do that again because it felt so good, right? So, and one of my clients said, she had so much fun in the past, she wants to have it again. So it looks like wanting to recreate the fun times you had in the past. It looks like wanting to recreate the feelings of first falling in love, that euphoria, right? That bliss when you first experience falling in love. It can easily become an addiction because you feel so wonderful and life is so wonderful and no problems and you're going to live happily ever after, right? This is like the serial falling in love thing that so many people are caught up in. It looks like wanting to recreate the amount of money you made in your last business inclination before you pivoted, right? Because maybe you were, I don't know, being a graphic designer and you made a lot of money and then you switched to being a gardener and, a landscaper, and now you're not making as much money anymore. So, even if you like gardening more than you like graphic design, you still want to make the same amount of money because you had it in the past and you liked having so much money, right? So still want to recreate an experience from the past. The attachment to the past, right? Attachment is always ego. So it looks like wanting to move to the countryside because of how wonderful it was to grow up there, right? The hustle and bustle of city life. It's nostalgia. Nostalgia is ego, hanging on to the past, the longing for the past, longing for something that's past. And we all know the past is an illusion, it doesn't exist. So it looks like wanting to be a digital nomad because you felt so free when traveling before. Right? So for me, I wanted to recreate the experience of taking people to power places because that have been the most magnificent mystical experiences of my life. And that has been hellishly hard to let go of, you know? It's been really, really hard. And as I'm saying, there's going to feel like there's still some attachment to that. Okay, next one, ego desire, number 3, seeing someone else's life and wanting the same. Hello, Facebook. Hello, social media. This is what that's all about, right? It's like sharing your life and then other people want the same, so they're going to become your clients, right? So it looks like wanting to be a 7-figure coach so you can also get the recognition that other 7-figure coaches get, right? You have made it. And people can see you've made it when you have become a 7-figure coach. It looks like wanting a tiny house because it looks like freedom from a complicated life. No cheaper, right? It looks like seeing a happy couple and wanting a partner to have those same kinds of lovely experiences with, instead of always being alone. Or with the partner that you're kind of stuck with that you don't really like anymore, right? It looks like seeing someone having a business and wanting that same kind of business. Whether that has something to do with your genius magic, what you're good at or not, it's just like, oh, I would like to have a business like that, doing that kind of thing also. It looks like someone wrote a book and made a lot of money from it, and now you want to write a book too and make a lot of money from it too, right? Or it looks like somebody, I don't know, ran a marathon and now you want to run it too. And in and of itself, it's like the desires themselves are not the problem. It's the origin of the desires, right? Which is why I say the origin of ego desires. And the purifier, right? Living as a dragon, it starts here by knowing why you desire what you desire. And when I first started looking into my desires, especially around my business, right, I was shocked. I was shocked at how much of my business was out of ego desires. And as I started, as I committed myself to not take actions based in ego and starting to sort everything away that was not part of ego, it became, there wasn't so much of my business left. There was basically only one program left where I was teaching how to become a dragon. and helping people live their genius magic life, telling them what the genius magic, not telling them, but helping, going on a journey with them to take ownership of their genius magic, what the exact genius magic was. So, origins of genius desire, ego desire number 4, what you identify yourself with. And this is very interesting, right? Because whatever you identify yourself with, that's what you're going to desire more of. So it looks like wanting to turn people into dragons because you identify yourself as someone who is special with her knowledge of dragon codes, right? Remember this? Special. Which was why I put everything about dragons on hold, because I really did not know where it was going, if there was anything left after I took all the ego out of it. Of course, this is, talking about myself here. It looks like wanting to make money because you identify yourself as someone who doesn't know how to do it, right? And if you think of yourself as, I don't know how to make money, you become very obsessed in wanting to make money so that you can become, so that you can switch your identity from someone who doesn't know how to make money to someone who knows how to make money. And it looks like wanting a good relationship because you identify yourself with being someone unlucky in love, right? So it's kind of wanting the opposite, but the desire comes out of your identity. Or it looks like wanting a successful business while holding back and staying hidden because you identify yourself as someone who gets betrayed. Now, this is the desire for wanting a successful business is there, but it's coming. It is based on you being somebody who is afraid of taking responsibility and standing up for yourself and creating that successful business, right? Because you're somebody who has been betrayed by business partners in the past. And this is an example from one of my clients. I just can't remember the whole story, but there was definitely a lot of betrayal in it. And for me, my identity has been, I'm the one who struggled to break money patterns. And so much of, that's been my identity. So, I'm still working on letting go of that identity. And it's very interesting, right? It's the identity. It's just like, who are you? What do you identify yourself with? So dopamine addiction, it's number 5 here, right? So this is one of the things that really threw me at first when I first started looking, not just shadow, but ego as a whole, right? Why did I want to do some things? Why did I have desire to do some things? And it looked like just wanting to feel accomplished, that I was doing something, or it looked like I was feeling relieved, or it looked like I was being bored. So I would seek out something else that would make me not feel bored. So I had a desire to not feel bored, is that, part of wanting to feel the opposite. But it's really that rush of the dopamine, right? The dopamine hit. Because if you're bored and you go and do something exciting, then suddenly you're not bored anymore. Or it looks like wanting to launch a new project to feel that rush of excitement and enthusiasm. And all new projects, pretty much all of them, right? It's like the human nature to like feel super excited and enthusiastic about getting started with something and creating that. But that excitement wanes, right? It wanes. So there's less of it. And then, there's just kind of like, yeah, you just do it. Right. So it looks like wanting to have a big sales month because, man, that rush of a lot of money. It looks like falling in love because that rush of being in love. It looks like changing your branding all the time because that rush when you look at your beautiful new branding. And it looks like watching movies because when you can get caught up in the story on the screen, you can feel into it and you get all these dopamine hits, from the movies. So I learned to become really suspicious of my desires. So dragons, the way of dragons is to only have one desire, and that's to perform the genius magic art. It's your love for divine truth. You're devoted to divine truth above all else, and you just don't play the human game anymore. Yes, ego content is going to come up, the human story is going to come up, human concerns are going to come up, but you empty them out, right? Because you only have one desire, to perform your genius magic art. And you only have, your standard is this ego or is it divine truth? And that's what matters. Is it ego or is it divine truth? And that's it. End of story. And if it's ego, you empty it out. If it's divine truth, you're there, right? Boom, that's your desire. So you will purify yourself and keep purifying yourself until you're completely empty of ego. And this is an ongoing thing, right? This is an ongoing thing, because genius magic is not just one thing, right? It's like you're being asked, you're creator, right? You'll be asked to create more and more and more and more. Genius magic wants to show up big in the world. It wants to be known. It wants to become something. It wants to be performed, is what genius magic wants to be. It doesn't want to just be a concept or a dream. It actually wants to become real. And this is what this membership is about for me, like making the dragon codes real instead of just talking about them and dreaming about them. Okay, so the child sovereign goes into the steward. So the identity is, whereas the child doesn't have an identity, the sovereign is like, I'm commander of my life, I'm the ruler of my life. As the identity here, you are the artist of your genius magic. That's your identity. You go from being a commander to becoming an artist. And the art you create is, as God created, is the divine truth streaming into the 3D world. So your responsibility is that of a sacred stewardship, right? Your genius magic is divine codes, source in divine consciousness, it's divine truth streaming through you. It's sacred, right? It's divine, it's sacred, it's holy. So it's a sacred stewardship. And I realized when I remember when I first realized this, it just got so deep in me, it just sank so deep in me that it is a sacred stewardship. It is sacred and it's a stewardship. I'm there to serve it. I'm there to take full responsibility for taking the actions and making it become 3D reality, for whatever genius magic wants to come to us. That's my responsibility, the sacred stewardship, and I'm going to put all my power into it. So this, the child and sovereign has to do with owning your power too, right? So all my power is in service to my genius magic. Of course, ego is going to say, oh, but what about free will and me? And the point is, remember, genius magic is you. You are never not your genius magic. You are never not being your genius magic. It's the purest you. When you strip yourself of all the human bullshit, right? This is what is left. It's just you as your genius magic. And it's a sacred stewardship. And it's no problem. You submit to it because it's out of love. It's the love you have for it, right? It's the love you have for yourself. It's the love you have for the world. It's the love you have for God. This all goes into taking on the sacred stewardship instead of going on in your narrow, limited human world and say, okay, I just want to make a lot of money. Or maybe that's your genius magic, right? But say it comes from, an ego desire, and that's all I want. And you go about making all your money and end up with a horrible relationship. Your kids get on drugs, your partners betray you. It's like all kind of things happen, right? Because it's based on ego. It's not pure. There's no purity in it. So the authority you have as a steward is that it's in the fact that your genius magic is divine truth. And I'm just thinking here, there was a little like hitch here. And I was thinking, my authority is that everything you say here now is divine truth. And I'll go like, my ego goes like, oh my God, it's like dragons, it's so weird. It's, there are no real dragons, and goes into this whole story around it. Anyway, let that go. So the authority here is that I'm talking about, the dragon archetypes, which are true, right? You don't have to call them dragon archetypes, but these archetypes on how to live your genius magic and divine truth, they're totally there. So the submission, whereas the sovereign was the visionary, right? Taking responsibility for the vision. Here, it's the opposite, right? You don't have a vision. You hold tension for the art that wants to be created. So holding tension, meaning that you're ready to take action at any given time. You might not know what the vision is, but you're deeply submitted, and you will stay deeply submitted. And it creates a tension, right? And sometimes tension is knowing what wants to be created, but you don't know how to do it. So you hold tension on that. Sometimes submission is on, okay, I'm really acting, there's really some ego content here that's in my way, but I don't know what it is. So you hold tension on that. So I'm going to give you some examples of it, later on. So the divine mandate here of the steward is to produce the genius magic art, right? Because just having a pure desire for it, coming back to the purifier, it's purified. The desire is purified. It's genius magic that wants to be created. You gotta take responsibility as a steward of your genius magic and produce, right? Make it 3D real. So the key phrase here is devotion, right? It's utter devotion to being the performer of your genius magic art, to being the artist in that sacred stewardship. This is all based on love. So the victim warrior then becomes the guardian dragon. So guardian, right? It's like you're guarding against your life being lived from ego, right? It's like you're guarding against ego content taking over your life. You're guarding against ego content polluting your creation, right? So it's the guardian, the warrior becomes the guardian. And this channel is also about like taking actions and moving things around in 3D space, right? So what you will find is that once you empty out all your actions, empty out all ego content and make sure that your desire is pure and you're taking on the stewardship with all your power, right? It takes so much fewer actions because the actions you take, they are precise and pure, right? The only genius magic actions. You don't need to take any other actions. And what those of us who are on the shapeshifter journey into dragons have found is like, you get so much time because everything happens so much faster. When you only take genius magic actions, they're usually very fast, they come very natural, and you're left with all this time. And what are you going to do with it, right? I tell you that ego gets very busy with filling up that time. So the movement here, it's like ego, especially shadow ego, is like it's moving towards either away from something terrible or towards what it wants to desire, or what it wants to manifest, right? So there's always an ego moves, right, from something towards something. As a guardian, there is no movement. You are still, absolutely still. Now, your physical body moves, right? But energetically, you're still, because the creation flows out of stillness. You hold tension in stillness. As soon as you move, tension is resolved and there is no tension. And tension is what pulls. If you look at your human self as a conduit from divine consciousness here above you, let's see if it shows up on the screen, right? Like, just imagine it's here, you're the conduit, and then comes out into the 3D world down here. Um, the your conduit, right? So the holding of tension in the stillness is what brings, you know, activates or animates the divine consciousness codes where everything exists, right? You already have everything there, but activates the ones that you're going to bring through and down into the 3D world. But you can only be that conduit if you stand completely still. It's completely still, right? Because as soon as you move, you're not really, you know, the divine consciousness can't come to it because you're running around being busy elsewhere. So I'm talking about energetic stillness. It's like the most beautiful space to be in. Oh my God. And when all your actions come from that stillness, you'll just realize that you don't need to think, because your body just knows what to do. It's so natural. It is so natural that you really get how unnatural the human experience is, right? And, of course, on the journey to become a dragon, you go in and out of these, you know, ego and dragon and ego and dragon and ego and dragon. It's like a journey where you pop back and forth. But the beauty here is that every single piece of ego content can be turned into a portal to your dragonhood, to your genius magic, divine self. Yeah. So the loyalty here, just like the warrior is loyal to the sovereign, you are loyal to your genius magic. And that's it. The divine truth, genius magic is all the same, but that's where your loyalty is, right? Not to anything else, the loyalty. So divine mandate of the guardian is to take only genius magic actions. And the key word here is the creation, right? It's like the creation through the body, through your actions. Just like I'm doing this PowerPoint here, is it's creation, right? And it's definitely genius magic creation. So the oracle is where you go from saboteur, that's all about logic and reason, into the magician, which is intuition, from your higher self into the oracle. And the oracle is the blind seer, and for those of you who knows about the dark archetypes and the hyperconscious archetypes, which are not really, about here, but it's about the blind seer who exists in the dark, who can't see anything, right? There's nothing to see. So the oracle sits in the void of divine consciousness, the void where there's nothing, and because there's nothing, there's everything, right? Divine consciousness, the human, the drop in the ocean, right? The void is the ocean. And nothing exists in the ocean, but also everything, every possibility, every potential, everything, you already have it in the void. And the conduit is to take the chaos of the ocean, of the divine consciousness. Think of it as raw creator codes that have no order to them, right? No order, no three-dimensional order. So you're the conduit, the oracle is the conduit for taking some of that chaos and bring it into a three-dimensional order so it can become your human life. And whereas before it was intuition, I wonder what I should do right now, and then you listen and you get the message. Yeah, it's like here we have the genius command, right? And you exist in the stillness. You hold tension where you either know or you don't know. There's nothing in between. In between, you either know or you don't know, right? This this is what the oracle is all about, and there's nothing in between. So all this trying to figure out and doubt and confusion and feeling lost and maybe this and maybe that and I don't know what and maybe I should do this and how about this and what do you think? It's all ego content, right? The dragon exists in a state of knowing or not knowing. If you know, you say yes. And then you might be able to take actions and you might not be able to take actions, right? If you're not ready to take action, yes, you not know until the next genius command come in and says this. Yeah? And one of the case studies is going to be about this. And the oracle, the word, only exists right now. And when I say right now, I'm not really talking about the human realm, the human consciousness now, but divine now. Right? There's only now. And you already know it's like, the power of now, right? Your power only exists in now. Your genius magic only exists in now. Your intuition only exists in now. And your divine mandate only exists in the now. So now it's all here, now, just now, just now. And do you know right now? No. You go about enjoy your life. Do you have ego content now? Yeah. Purify, say, okay, yes, right? This is about living life as a yes, not as a no, right? So, I have some ego content here. I'm very confused about what I should be doing now or what's next. So you just empty out all that confusion and then you don't know. And that's great because you can live in that whole tense state of being, the holding tension of not knowing. It doesn't matter whether you know or not know. They're equally valuable, right? And your ego can't handle not knowing. Just it wants to know because that's how it can feel in control, right? But you don't. You don't. So the divine mandate of the oracle is to deliver the genius magic commands. So what do I mean by genius magic commands? It's like, do this, now do this. Okay, this. It's like code blocks, right? Here's the thing. Check this out. Do this. Now go there, right? Let's deliver the genius magic commands. When your ego is active, you can't hear the genius magic commands. So the key word here is command, the oracle commands. It's the commander now, whereas in the human archetype system, the sovereign was a commander. So it's two different channels. Let me see if I can find it back so I can show you this one, right? So here, the sovereign was a child, was about identity and power. And the sovereign was like the CEO of your life, the commander, right? This is what sovereign means. But here now in Dragon Archetypes, the oracle is the commander of your life because you only ever create from genius command. So that's a bit different. Okay. So we got here. Okay. So case studies. So God, the universe, and everything. So this has to do with, this is an example of how this is something you have already done, you just didn't know it yet, right? It's like how you have already been animating the dragon archetypes and how they have already worked in bringing you everything you want without you doing anything to actually make it happen, right? Because you just follow genius commands. So this goes way back to the maybe 1993, 1994, sort of before the internet, before social media and all that stuff, right? And I wanted to promote my business. It's very funny. I was working very much with like body therapies at that time. I just started on my journey and working on myself, been at it for a few years. And anyway, so one of the ways that you promoted yourself that time was like public speaking. So I'd gone to a coffee place, and where I knew they had people come in and give lectures, and said, "Hey, I would like to give a lecture on God, the universe, and everything," as part of me, promoting myself. But I also just really wanted to get over my fear of public speaking. And so I called it God, the universe, and everything. And I just got this idea, right? It's like kind of out of nowhere. I got the idea, okay, I'm not going to prepare for this. I'm not going to prepare anything. I'm going to show up completely blank. And, I really wanted to push my fear of public speaking. And so that was fine. And as the time got closer and closer, I was doing massages in the gym at that time. And after 7 or 8 o'clock, I had this thing, and I remember as I got closer and closer to the time, and I had to get in the car and leave for this lecture, I was like, oh, there's probably just going to be 3 or 4, so I'm okay. I can just have a cozy time. I was like, oh my God, please, 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 please let me break a leg so I can avoid this. And my fear was just like escalating, right? I was like, oh my God, just somebody get me out of this. And I kind of calmed myself, say, okay, there's probably just going to be a few people. I mean, who is going to come to a lecture that's called God, the universe, and everything? And then I show up at the coffee place at last minute, and there's like 50 people sitting there and standing in that coffee place. I was actually a coffee place bookstore. And I'm just about to pass out in sheer terror of what I'm getting myself into. And I remember so clearly, I was standing there. I had a pink skirt, I was wearing pink back then. I had on a pink skirt, probably a pink sweater also. That was pink time. And I remember standing there looking at these 50 people. I just walked in the door and said, "Hell, God." And I just sent this like scream upwards, right? And I just submitted. I didn't think of it as submitting, but I just submitted, and I just opened my mouth and started talking about the first thing that came to my mind. And when I give a public lecture, I always invite people to ask questions and stuff. So at the end of this lecture, when I didn't have anything more that was coming to me, one person in the audience, asked if I could do a weekend workshop, because this was the age of weekend workshops, right? You didn't do these online programs or whatever. People would get together for a weekend and then we would all do it. And I miss those days. There's difference to be together in person. And I said, yes, of course, It's like, why would I say no? I said yes, even if I didn't know what the weekend workshop was going to be about, right? I just said yes. And then within like, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I had like 12 people signed up for a weekend workshop that I hadn't planned, that I hadn't promoted, that I hadn't, even knew was in the works, right? So I did that weekend workshop. I think it was the next weekend. And, I didn't have email, right? So I had to call everybody. So this is the way how it worked, right? Because I wanted to have more money. And the whole way here in this story here, I submitted, first, like Jeannie's command was like, work on your fear of public speaking, then, promote your business, do that by public speaking. As that probably came first, like the command came promote your business by doing some lectures. 2, push yourself with the fear of public speaking. 3, go to this coffee place, bookstore, and tell them you want to do a lecture there. 4, don't plan anything, don't prepare anything, just come up blank. And after that, scream. Okay, just said the first thing that came to my mind. And then when people's, then came to me that we want to do a workshop, I said yes, right? Because I just kept saying yes, 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 yes. So this is where I just followed the, we call them nudges, because it's not really command, but it's like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And for whatever reason at that time, right, it's like my ego didn't get in the way of me doing. And what happened, I made so much money that month because I had all these people show up for this weekend workshop, right? And I didn't do anything to make this weekend workshop happen. I let it happen. It came to me. It was brought to me. And by the way, I love working live with people. So, this was a long time ago, and I've forgotten all about it until I was going through some of my old videos a few weeks ago. And I was like, oh my God, this is how it works. I don't have to make it happen. I just have to follow my genius nudges. And this is why I'm saying, the archetypes are already there. They're already working. Your ego is just preventing you from paying attention to your genius nudges. Yeah? Case study number 2, the Dragon Hall of Codes, which is this membership. Now, this has been one of the most challenging things I've ever created. Hold on. I had it, but then I had to close it. Membership. Hold on. So this membership here came about as just a genius command, because to be honest, my ego has no desire to ever do a membership. It was something I've never been interested in. It was something that I just didn't care about doing, So I had to do a lot of purification of ego to be able to continue with it. And then the whole story, how it came about, or even how we're here today, was just a series of genius commands. So I wrote a post about it that I'm going to read out loud for you, right? So this membership is the hardest program I ever launched, and I probably lost 100 by now. So when the genius command came to do this membership, I submitted and devoted as dragons do, and I believe in walking my talk. And normally, when I get a command to do a program, I launch it quickly, definitely within a week, often within 2 days. It's just, okay, do this, it's out here. So this time with this membership, it took me more than a month. And that was because the Dragon Hall of Codes membership turned out to become the biggest exposer of ego content ever. You wouldn't believe the amount of ego content that I've had purified here. It has been an enormous gift just in that. And I want to say here that you don't know whether your commands are to help you expose more shadow, or it's part of an unfolding creation. I don't know if this membership is going to grow, or it was just that I just do it for a few months and then it's over and done, right? That's genius. I will get genius command on what's going to happen and happen and happen, So months ago, I decided I will not share anything public until I knew it to be ego-free and divinely pure. Right? I already mentioned it. So I emptied out ego content and emptied out ego content and emptied out ego content about this membership, right? And if you're curious, the ego content was variations of too much hard work to do a membership. Nobody will want it. If no one buys, I'll be a failure. I'll be walking. I felt I was walking to my doom. It really felt doing this membership would be me walking to my doom. So it was a gloom and doom attack, right? Who am I to talk about dragon codes? People will think I'm just putting on airs. I don't believe I have it in me to do this, talking about dragon codes, membership, whatever. I want to have at least 200 people in it. And if that was like a goal, right? Ego, because only if I have 200 people in it will it be worth the money, for the work. And I won't do it unless it makes me a lot of money. What will people think of me? As well as variations of fear, anxiety, powerlessness, hopelessness, comparisonitis, impatience, and massive attachment to succeeding. So basically all the normal ego stuff, right? So every time my ego was screaming at me that it was taking too long with all this constant emptying out of ego content, now I'd wasted another week again without launching the membership. And I should do it now because time, and money. But I didn't move. I stayed still, right? Remember, I stayed still. I didn't let ego sway me from showing up as a dragon. I stayed still. I kept emptying out ego every day and sometimes several times a day. And it's honestly felt sometimes, some days, all egoing out for weeks. Because my commitment, my submission, my devotion to my genius magic and living as a dragon, living the way of dragon is absolute. I will only act in divine truth, not my limited human consciousness, which is totally illusion of separation from divine abundance. I just will not go there. I will only perform my genius magic art, business, when I know it's empty of human codes. And it's taken me until today. Because not only was I determined to present the membership in purity, so it's as potent as it can possibly be. Because a few years ago, I asked in a video on business as art, what would your business look like if you approached every part of it as the creation of $1 million commissioned work of art? And every time I think of launching the membership, I realized it wasn't $1 million work of art yet. So sure, I could do a basic Facebook group membership, but that was not my command, right? My command was to go all the way with this membership and create it, which exposed another mountain of ego content, which culminated a few days ago when I abruptly woke up from a deep sleep right into a massive gloom and doom ego attack. And now today, I proudly present to you the Dragon Hall of Codes. And then it continued. I did another post on this. Hold on here. Just bear with me. I can't find. I'm missing a. Okay, so here's coming up, which is how it evolved this thing. Okay, so Genius commanded me to do a membership for 97 euros per month, and I submitted. But I did not know what the membership was going to be about. I had some thought floating through my mind. It was about genius magic business, a dragon business or something. but I hadn't had a command on what it was going to be about yet. So I held tension on what the membership would be about. I stayed still, held tension, didn't try to figure it out. I stayed in not knowing, right? So then the command came in to focus the membership on dragon codes and turning people into dragons. And I submitted again. And that was it. I got no more. So I just held still, held tension, didn't try to figure anything out. I just thought, okay, it's going to be a dragon code. What's the format going to be? You know, is it going to be with like a monthly live stream? Is it going to be pre-recorded things? It was like all kind of things, you know, like the physical, practical format. So Genius Magic, the Genius command came in to explore different membership formats. So I did. I submitted to that. I said, okay, I said about exploring, Googled around, asked some people, and then I asked a client of mine who has a membership and asked her how she did hers. And there was something in her answer that brought this membership alive. It just became alive. You know, I don't even know how to describe it otherwise, but it just came to life, right? So then Genius commanded, so that kind of took care of like the format. How is that going to evolve? It's like not static, it's dynamic. It's going to change. Sometimes we're going to do one thing, sometimes we're going to do another thing, right? So Genius Magic commanded me to include 2 programs as a bonus. 2 programs I already have, I submitted, put them up there. And then Genius Magic dropped Dragon Archetypes. The first live stream in the membership is going to be about dragon archetypes, and I submitted, but I did not know what these dragon archetypes would be about, you know. And then Genius Magic commanded me to go for a walk, because Genius does that, right? It's like Genius Magic, when you're submitted to it, right? It's like everything is presented to you on a silver platter. So Genius Magic commanded me to go for a walk. And as I was walking, what the dragon archetypes are all about, download it. Yeah. And then it was like the first piece of content in the membership is to be about dragon archetypes. And here we are, you know. So this whole creation of this membership and what I'm talking about, it is only me performing the art of my Genius Magic as a stewardship. Do I know what it's going to be? Do I know, is this going to be 200 people in it? Maybe there will never be more than max 5, and then that will be the end of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? So I was having this question float through my mind, earlier today. It's like, is this still art if nobody sees it? Is art still valuable if nobody buys it? And those are the questions that matter to your performance of your Genius Magic, because your devotion is to the creation of your Genius Magic art as a dragon. What happens as a result of it? Not your human business, right? Because God wants to give you everything good. So it's just art. It's just art. Okay, so this is how this Dragon Hall of Codes came up, and it's still a challenge. But every challenge is posing so much human ego content, and it's just really, really beautiful to get it all flushed out so that good things can find me and I can live my unimaginable life. And apparently it includes becoming an expert on dragon archetypes, which I had no idea was in store for me. So this is the beauty of it. You discover it as you're living it. You don't know until you know, and you just do one step at a time. So, forfeiting my life. Now, this is a story of how I use the dragon archetypes to uncover a huge, huge, huge block in my life. It started out as kind of like Why am I not making sales? And then I saw a pattern, right? I saw my money pattern crystal clear. And I saw like how every time I thought of a tool with like shadow alchemy or this or that, all the things I've done over the years, I would always make a lot of money for a while and then nothing, right? So it's like not just a little bit up and down, it was like massive, a roller coaster. And I just saw it. I mean, it's my eyes just got open because, it's like, okay, I'm not going to live my life according to ego anymore. And this would be according to ego. So I hope I'm speaking loud enough so that you can hear me. Oops. So you can hear me. I hope that recording came through okay over the church bells. Okay. So anyway, so I was just there, and it's like I just saw my pattern, and I realized all my efforts on breaking the pattern had not worked. So there had to be something I had not seen yet. And then as I was just holding tension, I wasn't really trying to analyze or anything because that's ego trying to fix itself, which doesn't really change anything. I've done a lot of that, decades of that. Trying to fix my ego is called AKA working on healing yourself. Changing your beliefs, changing your thoughts, changing your feelings. It's just ego masturbation, for lack of better words. But yeah, it's just ego working on itself. So it doesn't work, right? I already knew that. So there had to be something else. And I just knew, I wasn't going to go looking for it because I just felt tension. And so there were some feelings coming up, and feelings are always indication of ego content. So I was going deep, and I was just holding tension. Okay, why is this pattern still happening? When I'm perfectly capable of making a lot of money, I've done it, I know I have the power to make money, I can make money. Why does my ego not want me to make money? And that was the key question. Why does my ego not want me to make money? And I just went deep, just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And what turned up was that, and I didn't do anything. I didn't try to understand. I didn't try to analyze. And then it popped into my mind that maybe it's a vow. I had been on a workshop back in 2010. It was a Brandon-based journey to learn that. And they had made, they gave a lecture of, gave a presentation and had us practice the method. But they made a point to talk specifically about vows, how they how they could sit so deep in you and they had such a detrimental effect on your life. And just doing any other work on yourself wouldn't work if you had made a vow to whatever, right? So for whatever reason, that just popped into my mind. And I knew to pay attention to it, right? Because genius commands, genius is on my side, like the oracle archetype was popping in and making me suddenly remember this thing about the vow that I haven't thought about in 13 years, right? Why now, right? So I just had attention. Okay, maybe there's a vow. Maybe I made a vow about something that makes ego consistently make sure, prevent me from consistently making a lot of money when I know I can. And lo and behold, it turned out that I had made a vow, sometimes in my early childhood probably, to forfeit my life in order to stand by somebody else's life. Who that is, it doesn't really matter, but I had chosen to sacrifice my entire life to stand by somebody, right? Shadow is codependence, it's shadow, right? For somebody, I gave up my own life in order for somebody to support somebody in theirs. And it's like my ego. I just said, oh, Gita is about getting a life. We can't have that. She's making too much money and then she might have a life. We can't have that. Let's make sure no money come in, right? It's like actually repelling money. And the reason I'm giving this as an example here is because I was using the dragon archetypes. I was holding still, right? My pure desire is always to live without ego, to not live an ego-based life. And when I realized there's ego content, then I purify. And then I held tension. I held still. I was willing to do whatever it takes, right? That's a part of the warrior, the guardian, not to, to empty out the ego content. And then this vow was brought to my attention, right? Just out of nowhere, right? And that allowed me to actually, it took some time. I mean, this vow sit deep, that I couldn't have a life, It's so crazy. Anyway, so another case study is what I call the wall. So I was in there, okay, so what else? Is there anything else? I had a feeling that just doing this with forfeiting my life, there was something else too, right? It's like as you begin to purify more and more ego, you get more and more sensitive to when there's ego content active. So I could sense, there was still a sense of me like, yeah, money, don't come close to me, right? And as I was feeling into it, I became aware that I had chosen not to allow money to come into my life because I was devoted to something else. And what was really intriguing about this was that it was not actually a shadow desire, it was a pure desire. So like me being in my power archetypes, right? I was not acting out of shadow as, in the case where I was forfeiting my life. That was totally shadow archetypes. It was like total codependence, taking responsibility for somebody else's well-being and martyring myself by giving up my own life. But this one was different, right? It's like there was no shadow in it. It's just a pure power archetypes. The lover, this is what I value most. I take full responsibility for it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and then just, okay, what do I need to do? And so from these power archetypes, I was denying myself money. I was keeping money at bay. I couldn't leave them in because I valued something more. And this was very, very interesting because I was just like, the reason was I was devoted to my spiritual life and I couldn't allow myself to have a material life, like not have any money, because that would mean I wasn't as devoted to the spiritual thing, right? So it was still an ego desire, because divine consciousness is about abundance, right? It's not about like, well, maybe my genius magic could have been, escaping in, the hermit in the cave, but it's not what it is, it's life. So the ego had, valued my pride, here's the shadow, right? Like valued, like this devotion to rejecting the material, and if you wonder, I've probably been a nun in many past lives, so it's sort of ingrained in me, like just get rid of all your worldly belongings and just focus on the spiritual. So I call it the wall, right? Because from a place of the power archetypes, I created this wall between the spiritual and the material, right? But the point I'm making here, the reason why I'm bringing up this case study, because it was not animating the shadow codes, it was coming from power, right? So, and that had me very confused. But it's a great example of how the power archetypes can benefit either ego desires or your pure desires that's coming from a place of divinity, like your genius, the magic, or your dragon desires to call it, to call that, you know. So the power archetypes are human, right? So they're not about the divine, but they are how you execute the genius magic into the 3D world, right? You still need, you know, to do the things and take responsibility on a human level, because yes, you're the divine self, but you're also human. It's not an either or. Okay, so the last one is from one of my clients in the past. She came to me, she just followed her genius command to reach out to me and sign on as my client. And I was like, normally I know why clients come. I had no idea why she came to me. She didn't know why she came to me. And I was just, great. We don't know what we're doing here, but you know, here you are. And we just started talking about her genius. She was in the middle of a launch that had stagnated. And she didn't really know where to go. She felt very unmotivated. And I told her, you know, just speak truth. That was the thing that came to me, right? That was the thing. That I just passed it on. And she spoke truth. And then in 3 days, she had sold for another 80,000. So this is again an example of how one of my clients, she followed her command to come in as my client. And in 3 days, she made like 80,000 in sales. You know, it's like all she had to do was follow her nudge. And I say genius commands, right? But it's often a nudge and it's like a standalone thought. So this was a very long talk, but I believe it's like kind of setting up, you know, this is what I mean by living as a dragon. And ultimately, you want to go from life as an enemy to life as your greatest ally. And don't fight with life. Don't fight with life, right? Just submit to life. Say yes to life. And then it's like, oh, here's a piece of ego content. Say yes to that, purify it. Oh, here's a genius command to do this. You say yes, you do it, you know? And sometimes it's going for a walk. Sometimes it's taking a nap. Sometimes it's like doing a dragon archetypes presentation. Sometimes it's a membership. You don't know. And that's okay. You don't have to know. That's just ego that wants to control and makes itself feel better if it knows what's coming, right? But living as a dragon in submission to your genius magic and divine truth, you live in the unknown. And this is where the greatest stories will always unfold. This is where magic comes from the unknown. So, okay, that's it.